Well, I started getting actually into the guitar. I'm not exactly sure when, but it was probably when I was a teenager. I started playing the drums when I was 11, and then sometime, maybe 14, 15, 16, I started playing the guitar because I got into writing music. And so you kind of need to have something like the piano or the guitar as an instrument to write with. And that's how I got into the guitar. I always wanted to play the guitar. I'll go back to when I was 11. I started playing the drums in sort of the fifth grade band. And the only reason I played drums was because I remember going down and signing up for band. And they say, "What instrument do you want to play?" And I said, "Well, I want to play guitar." And I said, "Well, we don't offer guitar." So I said, "Well, what else you got?" "Well, we got this, this, and that." And I thought, "Well, drums is cool." I didn't want to play trumpet or trombone or any other wind instruments. So I signed up for drums. But I kind of had back in my mind this idea of playing guitar all along. And it was always there. Once I picked it up in my teen years, it was always there in the background. And then, probably, maybe when I got into my late teens, my early 20s, I really started thinking about playing the guitar, but I could never make the switch. I was playing full time as a drummer. I was working a lot with bands, and I was going to school. I went to Berkeley. My major was drums, and it was kind of hard to switch to a different instrument. Although in my heart of hearts, it's kind of always what I wanted to do. And it just took a very long time to do it. You say kind of went in hiding. I did sort of in the mid-'80s, and that's partly because I changed my career in the mid-'80s. I left the music business, and I went back to school. I got a degree in engineering, and that's what I do now for a living. But I always played in bands, and I always played on my own. I always continued writing music and recording music. So I was always there, but I kind of left the sort of the professional scene in the mid-'80s. The first one I played was called The Causeway. On the CD, actually, there's a shorter version of that. Why I did that, I'm not quite sure. Probably because it was originally meant, you know, the CD that I came out with sort of has a history of its own. And originally it started out as a different format or a different theme, if you will. And that tune was sort of behind it, so I kind of felt compelled when I put it on this CD to cut it shorter because I didn't, you know, the CD sort of changed its focus. But the version I played today is the real version, which is it's a three-part thing. There's the A section, which is on the CD, and then there's sort of a middle section, which is improvised for the most part, and then back to the A section. And the reason I did that is because a lot of what I do on the guitar is improvised. You know, even you know, whether it's an original tune or whether it's an arrangement, I always have something in there, or maybe 9 times out of 10 have something in there that I'm really working with improvisation. And that kind of comes from my jazz background. You know, I grew up playing a lot of, you know, jazz and big bands and small combos with drums, and that sort of carried on this tradition of improvisation. So although I play a classical guitar, I always try to include some improvisation. when you improvise, you're sort of beyond the notes. You're not even thinking about the notes, which of course allows you to focus on other things more like, what is it that you want to say, or what is it you want to get in tune with. And I find that when I do improvise, it demands just an enormous amount of concentration, and I'm always really sort of searching for what I want to try to say, or that maybe a certain feeling I had that day, or maybe just something I want to express in the music. But it is about communication. You're absolutely right. It's about trying to take something inside and output it so your audience can hear it. And it does cause you to look inside a lot. listen to everybody. I mean, I listen to, if you go to my house, you look at my CDs, I've got, like over 1,000 CDs, and you'll see things from Mozart to Sonny Rollins, to Dave Brubeck, to Led Zeppelin, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I mean, I can go on. I just listen to everything. There are some things I don't listen to, okay, but so my influences really are, I can't really name them all, but I can tell you a few people that I think really sort of have, come up to the top of the list. I would say first would be Steve Howe, guitar player for Yes. Lenny Breau is definitely up there. Lenny Breau is a pretty much unknown solo jazz guitarist, fingerstyle jazz guitarist. Tragically died back in the 80s. Just phenomenal talent, kind of like a Joe Pass. And then thirdly, probably Alex DeGrassi, who's a Windham Hill artist, fabulous fingerstyle player. And there's many others, but those three probably come to mind. Down the road? Boy, I don't know. I'd love to do a second CD. I've got plenty of material lined up to do it. But the problem is just time. Time to practice, time to go do it. You know, I have a full-time job, but that's kind of what I like to do. In the meantime, you know, I gig. I try to keep it, you know, I try to keep it fun, so I don't gig too much, but I gig enough so that I, you know, have fun doing it. And, you know, I'm just going to keep gigging it and, you know, keep playing. But, and keep going down the path I am with the guitar, you know. Really enjoy doing it.